Hello, and welcome to the InitiativeOne Leadership Podcast, where leaders learn to maximize their impact and increase their results. I am Regina Woods, Director of Operations and a Transformation Leader here at InitiativeOne, and I am thrilled to have with me Dean Hess, the Superintendent of the Oconto Falls School District. Welcome, Dean, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Regina.
Yes. So tell us, Dean, what led you to InitiativeOne? Because I know that you have had a chance to dive in with your team.
Well, as you can imagine, as superintendents, we collaborate quite a bit and talk about the things that are going well and the challenges we experience. And there was actually another superintendent in the area that had worked with InitiativeOne, was very appreciative of the positive impact that it had on their team, and encouraged me to reach out to Dr. Fred and gather more information, which I did, and that was kind of the start of getting us here today.
That's great. That's great. So typically when people consider taking their team on such a journey, there's often some hesitation that comes with that. So did you experience that?
I'm smiling because yes, it's a significant decision, and everybody, I think, goes through a different process. For me, I wanted to do everything I could to leverage as much data before I made that decision. Dr. Fred gives me a hard time because he had to reach out several times to assist me and guide me in trying to get here. I will say that it was absolutely the right decision for our team. We needed assistance in how we could better work together, and this has been a great impact on building our capacity.
That's great. So based on some of the leadership principles you learned, thinking about that fear, that hesitation that was holding you back, what would you say to others who are sitting on the sidelines wondering if they should make that next step?
When you look back, you have 20/20 hindsight, and if I was coaching myself or someone else now, I would be saying, are you really living your focus? Are you living what it is that you believe is, the mission of your organization, the vision of your organization? And when I look back, we were doing a lot of things well, but we still had some significant struggles. And going through this process, one of the first things was building those trust accelerators. And as we developed those with our team, we recognized immediately that with some of those trust accelerators, it was addressing under-the-table behaviors that we had allowed to stay under the table, which caused them in some cases to be significant challenges for us.
Yeah, those can be really powerful game changers for teams in terms of leaning into a new way of relating, not only to yourself, but to each other.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, if you're doing a great job of bringing really good people onto your team, those folks have a lot of experience and quite often a lot of positive outcomes to the work they've been doing. And yet they all have different experiences. And so now you bring them together in a group. Those collaborative actions are not always smooth, and how we interact with each other and the relationships that we build, there's going to be challenges, and how you address those challenges is significant to the positive outcomes. And for us, we had some challenges that we had kind of set on the shelf. We weren't addressing those. We were trying to focus on the work, and in some cases, it was straining the relationships. And so our work here with InitiativeOne has really helped us to take those things off the shelf, or as Dr. Fred would say, take them out from underneath the table, put them up on top of the table, and talk about them. Get people to have the strength and the fortitude to have those uncomfortable conversations. One of the things I think for me personally, he talks about first getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, but then going the next level, getting comfortable with making other people uncomfortable, which I think, like a lot of people, we tend to avoid conflict. And so going through InitiativeOne, you really start to learn how to address conflict and go through it in a way that's kind, direct, and respectful.
So how many trust accelerators did your team come up with?
Probably about 6 of them.
Yeah.
And, when you think about it, when you have groups that come together, I would think that those trust accelerators would be pretty similar for most people. They recognize that there's key aspects of their expectations of how a team works together. And that's something that we developed them, but now we're living them. And it's not perfect. I mean, we tend to at times still fall back, but we're starting to hold each other accountable, which is something that is really helping us to grow.
Well, and that takes the pressure off of you, because oftentimes when there's not that healthy peer-to-peer accountability, it defaults to the leader, right? All the problems come to the one with the title.
Well, and that's a great point, because whoever is leading the organization feels that level of responsibility. And one of the things we learned with our work here with InitiativeOne is, the different types of accountability. And, you can have that top down or that grassroots up, but that lateral accountability is by far the most powerful. And so when our team started to hold each other accountable laterally, we saw a much greater level of growth than what we have seen in the past.
That's outstanding. So in terms of your own personal growth, because, going through with an intact team, there's a lot of powerful learnings that you do together as a group. But part of that leadership transformation process is also to do a deep dive reflection, that opportunity for introspection. So what has your growth been, Dean, through the process?
So one of the first things that I started to reflect and recognize is I was not leaning in to the level that I needed to. It started with making the initial decision to come and work with InitiativeOne. I was allowing, in some cases, my doubt or anxiety to get in the way of my decision making. And in working with Fred, he also recognized I wasn't leaning in as I should and challenged me. So as he has challenged a lot of folks, that was one of the things that I wrote on my Post-it note, and it's currently on the dash of my truck. And I strive to lean in on a daily basis. The other thing that I recognize is we talk about being purpose-driven, and when you're involved in leadership of an organization or a department or a team, there's a lot of things going on, and it's easy to allow all the to-dos sometime to drive your work, and sometimes the purpose of what you do can get either left behind altogether, or it can just kind of be put on the shelf, and you can be making decisions that are not necessarily purpose-driven. And in doing so, our efficiency, I think, suffers. And for us, we're in public education, and that's a real problem because we help kids. And so when we talk about efficiency suffering, that means the kids suffer, which is not reasonable. So when we start to ask ourselves, is being uncomfortable, is the purpose that we have, is it worth it? Well, the answer is obviously absolutely. So I'm now more thoughtful of that, and I'm willing to be uncomfortable when I think about, is that uncomfortable situation going to improve whatever it is we're working on and ultimately be better for kids? And quite often the answer is yes. So the reflection is huge.
It is, and I appreciate your willingness to say that I needed to lean in more. How have people responded to you based on that? On that courage to really lean into things and embrace that concept of leaders become comfortable with the uncomfortable?
Well, I think if you want folks to grow, you need to lead by example. And a big part of that, if you want people to be vulnerable, you have to model that. And so my thought is I always want to be willing to do whatever it is I'm asking somebody else to do. What I have observed is I've observed members of our team willing to be vulnerable, willing to reflect and lean in and be honest with themselves and be honest with their team members. And I think that to some extent we're all in it together. So I guess what I draw from that is I'm hoping that through the work that I'm doing personally, it's helping the work we're trying to do as a team.
Yeah. And it's not been a kumbaya experience, has it? I mean, that first group that went through, you guys really leaned in hard.
We have a great group of people, and everybody's very passionate about helping kids, passionate about what we do. With that in mind, we absolutely had some challenges that we needed to address, and we did. And as you stated, it was not necessarily an easy process. When you go through and you reflect and you recognize there's things that you're either doing or not doing that are contributing to the challenges, that's kind of painful sometimes, and you have to be willing to work through that.
Yes.
And the nice part is the members of our team are willing to do that, and I think that has been a significant contributor to our growth. If they would not have been ready at that level, I don't think we would be growing as much as we are.
Well, and the ripple effect is the power of staying on purpose and impacting the lives of those children. So that's really powerful work that you all were willing to embrace.
Well, and it's allowed us to we're in our second cohort is going through, and we have really positive cross-representation from our groups. So we have support staff and certified staff, administrators, board members, all involved in this process, and they're giving me feedback similar to the first group in that this is having a significant positive impact on them as professional educators in their personal life as well as in their professional life.
Yes. And I'm really glad that you added that, because so many people send their folks to a leadership training, let's say, which leadership transformation is not training, but so the organization can get something out of it, of course, right? But being able to appreciate the value of allowing your people to experience this and help and contribute to their personal life too.
When you think about it, many of us invest as much time at work as we do at home.
Yes.
And so we quite often talk about our colleagues as our work family. Mm-hmm. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. The impact is in multiple aspects of our lives, and we have those conversations as part of our work with I1, how it's not just our colleagues that are recognizing growth, but our family members as well.
Yes. So if you had to pick one of the trust accelerators from the leadership cohort that you went through, Dean, what was one that really has stood out and had a really positive impact on your team?
The one that people bring up the most is delivering the mail to the right mailbox. Mm-hmm. We talk about human nature often is to avoid conflict. And so in the past, in our organization, it wasn't uncommon that people would have an issue, and rather than taking it to the person that they needed to talk with to address that, they would take it to somebody else. Mm-hmm. Dr. Fred talks about, the definition of drama is 5 or 6 people involved in something that really should be 2 folks having a conversation. And so that was one of our trust accelerators, and one that we continue to work on. And it's interesting because when folks, because we all do, it's not a perfect process, but if somebody's talking with me and it becomes very evident that I'm not the person they should be talking with, we'll have that conversation. Am I the right mailbox? And sometimes the person just needs a little bit of reassurance, but then sometimes too they look at me and say, "No, you're right. I need to go talk to somebody else." And I said, "Great," and let me know how that goes. So we're working on that, and it's helping us. It's powerful.
It's powerful, and it's not second nature to us humans, is it? Usually it's easier to go vent to you about the other person, and having that courage to find your voice and actually put issues on the table in that kind, direct, respectful way, those are really game changers for teams.
Absolutely, because when you think about the outcome, when we're not delivering the mail to the right mailbox, it tends to create other issues that make the situation even more difficult. Pretty soon there's groups of people who are becoming allied over an issue, and the person where the mail should have been delivered isn't even aware that there's an issue to begin with. And by the time they become aware, it can be a much bigger situation than what it would have been had it just been two people having a conversation like you and I are. So
It's stuff we teach in kindergarten, right? That as adults, we often don't bring our adult version of ourselves to difficult situations.
it's interesting you bring that up, because in education we often have expectations of our young people that we tend to find difficult as adults. And this is a great reminder when we come together how important thoughtful communication is when you're interacting with people to try to accomplish something that's really important.
So what would you say to the people sitting on the sidelines?
So I think every organization has its own specific needs. And so I can only give feedback from our situation. I can't put into words, I don't think, how important it is to understand what your situation is and what the needs are and what type of professional development is required to help you through that. For us, we needed InitiativeOne and all the experience that you have to assist us in building our capacity as a leadership team and now throughout our organization. For multiple years, I was trying to address it on my own and with a group of leaders, and it wasn't working. And I was struggling with coming to grips with the fact that it wasn't working and that we needed help. And even though I know better, I would tell people it's absolutely reasonable to get assistance. And when we reflect on that, that kind of sounds silly because we do this regularly. I mean, we involve people in professional development where we go out and we get help. And yet sometimes in certain situations, I think it's kind of human nature to think that maybe it's a weakness somehow to ask for help. So for the folks out there, if you're needing some assistance, I would say don't hesitate to gather more information. And it might be very helpful for you and your team.
That's great. And it warms my heart to know that the Oconto Falls School District is really diving into leadership and, expanding their leadership capacity, because it's my alma mater. So it's pretty cool to be sitting here with you and I see that orange and black there. So you've been a superintendent for 9 years.
Yep.
And because the lifespan of superintendents are not 9 years usually, right? So
Not usually, no.
So what's allowed you to stick with it?
So my wife and I was working in Wausau. We were living over in Mosinee. And back in 2015, we had the opportunity to come here to Oconto Falls. And a big part of what helped us to make that decision is the community and solid board, really strong organization. So we decided to come over, and when I look at the work we've done over the last 9 years, a lot of positive impact. The communities have supported us in the operational referendums that we've needed to continue the programming that we do. We also had support in passing a capital referendum. We're building a new middle school right now. If you come to our school district, you quickly see that there's a lot of support from the communities that we serve, whether it be in the arts, and you can come to our Performing Arts Center and see the kids doing great things in our concerts or in our plays, or you can come to an athletic event. If you compare us with other districts, we're doing really well. And I'm proud of obviously I'm biased. I'm proud of the kids, and I'm appreciative to the families and the community members. But I'm excited, too, for the work we're doing right now, because when I look at it, there's a lot of professional development out there that's kind of a one and done. You go to the PD and then you come back to your job and you're really busy, and how much does it really impact you? And I truly believe right now the work we're doing is going to be significantly impactful for a long time, because we have teachers that are recognizing that how they run a team meeting with their peers, or how they're interacting with the students, absolutely is being impacted by the things that they're learning right now through this process. And specialists, administrators, board members. Being a board member is a very difficult job, and they're making some really important decisions for our school district. And so how they work together as a board, how they work together with our administrative team and our staff is absolutely being impacted by what they're learning. So I'm excited as we continue to move forward and we get the opportunity to build capacity with all of our team members, because from what I've seen so far, I have every reason to believe it's going to be extremely positive.
I remember when I was doing a consultation for the leadership assessment, that PDP Pro scan that really kicks off the leadership transformation. And I had an appointment. I had a meeting with one of your school board members, and I thought, how cool is this that you invited the school board in to this leadership process with you?
Well, I'm really appreciative that the couple board members that we have involved chose to step in because they're getting an opportunity to interact with, again, support staff, teachers, admin, specialists as part of this work. And it gives everybody involved a better understanding, a better perspective of what each of the folks brings to the table and how critical it is to build those relationships as we work together. Those relationships enable people to have those difficult conversations when they're trying to gather more data and a better understanding before they make a decision. So I'm really excited that we have these folks doing what they're doing. And because of that, I also feel there's a better chance for it to grow here as we move forward the next couple of years.
I think that just epitomizes, that leadership concept of collaboration, where you're all sitting around the table, learning together, leaning in. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So one final question, Dean. One of the outcomes of our leadership transformation process is that you develop a 2-word purpose statement. What is your 2-word purpose statement, Dean?
Mine is inspiring professionalism.
What does that mean to you?
So when I think about the work that I do, a lot of it is trying to inspire other people to be the absolute best version of themselves that they can be. A long time ago, I was going through armor school, and we had a gentleman, his name was Colonel Rock. We always thought that was quite the name. And Colonel Rock used to tell us as young lieutenants, make sure that you know your business. Be professional in everything that you do. If there's something you're not sure of, get the assistance that you need to build your capacity and be a professional, because the people you're leading deserve that. And when I think about all the folks in our organization, every one of them has an important role to play. And my goal is to inspire each one of them to be as professional as they can, because the outcome is going to affect kids, and we want it to be very positive. So my goal is to inspire people to be professionals, and professional, if you look that up, there are a lot of different qualifiers that go into that. But going back to Colonel Rock, he said, know your business. And if you're not sure, figure it out, because the kids are worth it.
Well, as I've been watching your teams, right, here at InitiativeOne in our building, I'm really inspired by all the growth that I've seen, and just your vision to be able to pour into your people, the people who touch the lives of children and, society. So that's been really inspiring for me to witness that.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah. Thank you, Dean.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching this leadership podcast. You are welcome to join our next leadership think tank. You can register at InitiativeOne.com. If you like the podcast today, give it a thumbs up, pass it on to someone else, and we look forward to seeing you at future episodes.